This book really is an unpacking of my life in the last 18, 20 years of figuring out how to be something other than nice. A true leader builds other leaders. And what does it mean to build other leaders is sometimes you pass the microphone, sometimes you step out of the spotlight and push someone else forward. One of the things that I hate most is when people say things like, it's lonely at the top. I actually don't believe that. I think if it's lonely at the top, it's because you're doing it wrong.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. We're bringing the best and the brightest from the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. Folks, my guest today is a powerhouse in communications, change management, and equity-driven leadership, Amira Barger. She's the award-winning executive VP at Edelman Communications, change management, and DEIB advisory. She's a strategist trusted by some of the biggest names in healthcare and beyond, and author of the upcoming book, The Price of Nice, dropping October 28th. A bold call to break free from the comfort that keeps us stuck and real lasting change. And she spent more than 18 years shaping reputations, influencing stakeholders, and mobilizing communities at a global scale. She's counseled giants like CVS, Pfizer, Genentech, and CDC, and she's just as passionate about teaching as she is leading, serving as a professor at Cal State East Bay and a lecturer at UCSF. And when she's not doing all that, I don't know how she finds the time for this. When she's not advising, teaching, or speaking truth to power, she's road tripping across America with her family, checking off every single one of our 417 national parks. And you may have seen her before. Early this year, she was my guest at Transform, thanks to our friends over at Greenhouse. And we're now going to dig deeper. Let's get into it. Amira, that was a mouthful. Thank you for sticking with me. Welcome to the show.
I love it. Thank you so much for that generous introduction. It's so good to be back.
Thank you. Now, I mean, we already met in person first, so it makes it nice to do this. We already know each other a bit, kind of broken down those walls. But at Transform, it was only a 10, 15-minute conversation. I mean, we were kind of just in the we're plowing through it. I was on like speed mode going on over there. We could slow things down a little bit. One of the things I didn't get to do properly in March was really your origin story, because I think this is what's going to set up the book. This really outlines who you are and what you do best. So if you don't mind me asking, I'm always curious, what did your parents do for a living, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah. Oh, I do not mind sharing it at all because it has shaped so much of who I am and how I got to what I'm doing today. My parents, many moons ago, were actually ministers on a tiny, tiny island, the tiny island of Guam, which is a U.S. territory, much like Puerto Rico. It's way out there in the middle of nowhere. I always say to the left of Hawaii and above Australia and the equator. And so it was it's just out there. It is remote. I mean, everything is flown or shipped in. We would get, TV shows and everything, a week or 2 weeks later. And we were busy, swimming in the ocean and boogie boarding and surfing instead of, all the other things. But my parents, work as ministers created a really distinctive upbringing and sort of shaping of the formative years of my life that I look back fondly on and has, shaped so much of why I do what I do in the world of healthcare and communications and just helping people in communities all across the U.S. and the world.
I could only assume, and keep me straight here, that your parents are empathetic souls. And I got that impression from you the first time I met you. I am an empath. I feel energy. I can sense it. And just like you, like we have a spidey sense of like good people, right? Yeah. And our radar goes up for, the not so good people in this. There's something you can kind of feel about it. When, do you have like an early memory when you saw your parents in action through their ministries, when you really saw their empathetic side and said, this is who I am too?
Oh, definitely. So many core memories. We were there for 11 years and part of how and why it shaped me. So, when you're a minister, so much of what you do is certainly to help people with their faith, whatever faith it is. But before you can do any of that, you have to address the basic human needs of, food in your belly, clothes on your back, and a roof over your head. And that's exactly what we did. It was, sort of first and foremost before any of the other stuff could be addressed. And so what I noticed with my parents is that one of the things that was hardest, most expensive, and least accessible to help people with was anything related to their health and well-being, physically and mentally. And many people know that I work in healthcare communications and DEI advisory today because in that upbringing, we took so much time to try to provide people access to the things that they didn't, inherently have or just didn't have access to. And that always stuck with me, the idea that healthcare was a human right. I believe it is, but it
I
was so
agree.
expensive and it was so elusive for people. And I knew that one day I wanted to try to be a part of doing something about that because I saw that it was such a struggle for us to help people with that. But it was often the number one thing that people needed most help with before any of the other stuff, including their faith. It was just, can I be a healthy human being today? Is my body working?
Right.
Is my mind working as I need it to in order to thrive? And so that's part of why I entered the world of healthcare, is to be a part of a solution. And so much of that came from what you're saying of seeing parents who were empaths and recognizing, oh wow, someone needs help here, and if I have the power to do it, I want to be able to use that power.
I love that. I love sharing that part of the story. And was there ever, I'm just curious, was there ever a point where you wanted to go in like the medical side of healthcare, or were you always, nah, I don't like blood and needles?
Funny you should ask. I was a pre-med student for way too many years. I thought I was going to be a pediatric oncologist, very specifically. I had big dreams, and
That's a
I
heavy
actually
role.
was a part of, right? I was actually a part of a advanced program where I had the opportunity to shadow clinicians and be in the thick of it during my freshman and sophomore year, whereas most students who are pre-med have to wait till like junior,
Right.
senior year. And so the realities of being a physician and
It was
the
close.
dreams I had in my head were very different. And I actually, as a part of, any college career, you have your general education classes. I was in a intro to business class as a requirement. And as a part of that class, we were doing a lot around speech and communications and marketing. And that professor, who's a dear friend today, Bonnie Stahoviak, and she
Shout
noticed
out.
that I had a knack for communications, and she actually introduced me to the idea of communications as a tool to advance community and good in the world and to help people. And through her influence in many dinners and conversations, I actually ended up switching my major to marketing and communications in my junior year, which was wild. So that meant
So you
my
failed out of
junior.
medical school. So you failed out of medical school. No,
Right,
I'm kidding. Completely
exactly,
kidding.
right? Before
Yeah.
I started. So the last 2 years of my undergrad work was wild because I was taking, a ridiculous amount of credits, not only at my university, but also at a JC on the side, just so I could make sure I graduated on time because I switched my major so late. But I have no regrets. I'm glad I did it. And I'm glad that I'm able to, sort of put my fingerprints on helping people in the world of healthcare in a very different way, but still an impactful way. And I still get to touch patients' lives, not as a physician, but, as a connector and a communicator.
Yes. I love that. I love that pivot. And that's what it's really all about, is you have a sense of purpose and you action on that
Mhm.
purpose and you feel
Yes.
accomplished. And you answered a question I was going to ask, if you had any regrets about not going into the medical field. You don't, because you're incredible at what you do and you are making a difference in the world at Edelman. So let's get into the book. The Price of Nice. What does the title mean?
So I wrote this book because I was so tired of being told to be palatable when I was trying to be, a powerful force for good trouble, as John Lewis would say, in the world. And this book is really about the lifelong lifelong unpacking of my own social conditioning that I have been doing, that I know so many other people through conversation and, lived experience are also contending with in many ways. So people often ask, what's wrong with nice? And it's a simple question, but a very powerful one, because to me, it demands that we interrogate all of the unspoken rules that have shaped our lives, often without us realizing it. And that's what this book is about, is that the price of nice, the cost of being nice, is actually far too costly for all of us. And I think that it's a tax on human dignity and human opportunity and potential.
Wow. So let's put this into practical terms, actionable terms. Could you give us an example in the professional world how someone can be too nice in the workplace and the negative the negative effects?
Yeah, absolutely. I just told you I just got back from Canada this week because I was there speaking with a group of disruptive human resource professionals about exactly this. And the speech I gave there was 5 minutes, 20 slides that advance every 15 seconds. So
I did that in London. I did that in London 2 years ago, Disrupt London. It was crazy. We'll talk about it afterwards. Okay.
I love it. I love it. It's a great format because you got to get to brass tacks on what you're saying. So the sacred cows is one of the areas where I think we are too nice. So I told this story of, I was working at this nonprofit organization, and we had this great, hairy, audacious sacred cow. Our entire CEO, he was the sacred cow. This man was beloved in the community, considered a visionary, but within the walls of our organization, he dismissed feedback. He bristled at any critique, and he surrounded himself only with yes people who would affirm him and never push back. And we were in the running to secure $9 million from, federal dollars and state dollars. So we go to Capitol Hill to sit down with our congressperson. I'm here in California. So one of our congresspeople is Jackie Spire. Or Spear, I think she pronounces it, Congresswoman Jackie Spear. And we sit down with her, and the CEO, he finishes our pitch. And then he decides to drop his signature catchphrase, which we had warned him about before, because it's one of those sort of quick sayings.
I'm pre-cringing on this.
You should be. It's one of those quipped sayings that we all use, but it's one of those sayings where if you were to pause and you ask yourself, where did that come from? What are the origins of that phrase? You would be mortified. And so he finishes our pitch and he drops the catchphrase. He says, I don't know if I'm just sipping my own Kool-Aid. And he did not realize, because he had all the self-awareness of a brick, the tidal wave of discomfort he had just unleashed. And for those who are unaware, Jackie Spear was a staff person of a congressperson back in the 70s. And they were making a visit. And that little phrase that everyone throws around, sipping your own Kool-Aid, refers to the Jonestown Massacre. 900 people, cyanide-laced beverage. And so Jackie looks at him.
Red-colored fruit beverage.
Yes. She looks at him and says, you really shouldn't say that to me. And by the way, it was Flavor-Aid, not Kool-Aid. With so much nerve. I love her. With so much nerve, which is the antithesis of nice that I talk about in my book. She looks at him with nerve and says that. And, she survived that day. And for so long, our executive team had chosen nice, right? As in, we didn't want to rock the boat. We wanted to protect our comfort in the workplace. And though we had warned him about this in the prep meeting, we didn't correct his language. We didn't coach him again for the millionth time to drop the phrase. And of course, he said the one thing he should not have said to the one person.
He didn't listen.
He did not listen. And so that idea of sacred cows, which is those rules, leaders, and habits in an organization that you don't touch, you don't challenge, but they really need to be. And so we had played nice for so long and, wanted to maintain our comfort. And that's what we prioritized over having the nerve to address the sacred cow, to disrupt, to challenge our leader and those unspoken rules and habits. And it cost us. What it cost us was, the price was some embarrassment. Yeah. Obviously, it cost us, some decorum and yeah, a relationship with the congressperson. And those are lower cost than what I think we all actually pay for nice, which, like I said, is a much more costly
Did
tax on human dignity. But it's an example in the workplace of if you don't address those sacred cows, if you play nice instead of interrogating unspoken rules, there is a cost to it that you're going to have to contend with. And nerve is much less uncomfortable in the long
how?
term. It might feel
Yeah,
uncomfortable in the
at first.
immediate at first, but when you weigh it,
Yeah.
I wish we
So how do
had
you
gone with the nerve pushing back on him.
how do you position nerve? And let's be very mindful because
Mhm.
I want you to be very clear to my audience. Nerve doesn't mean disrespectful. Nerve doesn't mean rude.
Right.
How do you disrupt and push back in the right way? So it's not,
Mhm.
listen, if I offend you by speaking candid truth in a workplace environment for the right reasons and I do it politely, I can't always be
Mhm.
responsible for how you feel and take that feedback.
That's
Right?
right.
Like, but how do you, right, to an extent, and I'm putting in the confines
Yeah.
of doing it polite, respectful, but at the same
Right.
time, when we say the opposite of nice is nerve, nerve means pushing the needle to make shit happen. Pardon my
That's right.
French. The right direction. What are some of those best practices where you know
Mhm.
that you're going to ruffle somebody's feathers because it's not what they're used to, and they need to
Yeah.
hear something?
Yeah, as a person who's been in corporate for a long time, sometimes the simplest thing that you can do is to name it. I talk a lot about how acknowledgement
Hmm.
is a really powerful tool, and just to acknowledge, I need to have an uncomfortable conversation with you. I'm going to say something that you might not like, but it needs to be said because I think it will
So you're
make us
framing it
both
first. So,
better.
so you're managing their expectations before you start the
Right.
conversation. For example,
That's right.
in a personal front, be like, listen, I'm just gonna let you know I got some news to share with you that you're not gonna love. I'm just preparing
Mhm.
you, and then you get into it.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
then talk about the why is also important, why you feel the need to share this with them. And sometimes that why is, I care for you and your success. Sometimes the why is a shared value. Look, I know that we both want to secure this $9 million because our organization helps people with their health. And if we don't capture this $9 million, who suffers? Patients and people in our community.
And
And I know
and
that
it,
that matters to you.
and it's gonna require you to shut your mouth and not say your catchphrase.
That part, exactly. So finding that, we talk a lot about find common ground. And when we say that, what we also mean is the shared value, right? The shared value of, hey, you and I both care about people in community who are patients, who don't have the dollars they need to get what they need. And in order for us to help them, we need this $9 million, which means I need you to shut up and not say the one thing you shouldn't
Don't be
say
yourself
to the
today.
one
Don't be yourself
person.
today.
Please
Today you
don't be
should not
yourself
be
today.
yourself. Oh
Please
my
be
god!
better.
Thank God. I mean, I don't have a catchphrase. Geez, and I wouldn't have such a polarizing one. So I want to get into
Mhm.
something that I love. You talk about story as transformation, and in your book, you describe story as the oldest tool of transformation.
Mhm.
I'd love if you could share a moment in the workplace where storytelling, the art of storytelling, transformed something in the workplace.
Well, that's a really good question.
I love storytelling. I love
Mm.
sharing stories, and I think that's
Mhm.
a great way to set up an example.
It is. It is. For me, I actually was just speaking with a former colleague who's writing an article about a organization we worked with in Dallas, Texas that has actually now closed down. And so she's doing sort of a historic look back. And so it made me think of this. She asked me about, one of the most palpable moments about this organization and what it made it special to me. And it goes to your question on storytelling. So at this organization, our CEO, Larry was his name, he used to every Thursday, we were building a brand new building in the heart of Dallas, Texas, in an area that was considered how people say up and coming. That's the gentrified way of saying not a
Means
great part of town.
means a shitty neighborhood. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. It wasn't great. And we were erecting a brand new building. We needed to do a lot of work to sort of make inroads with the community about why we were coming into that area and how it would be a help. And so this CEO, he would fill a cooler with ice and with water every Thursday, and he would drag it across downtown Dallas to the site. And right across the street from our new building was this old, dilapidated, abandoned house that had a stoop a set of steps, and he'd sit on the stoop every Thursday in the hot Dallas, Texas sun with his cooler of water, and he'd just visit with people in the community, and he called them his friends. And, he would say, these are my friends, I have something to give, they have something to give, we both have skin in the game, and this matters. And to me, that is a story that speaks so much to how I try to show up in the world and in the workplace of, a CEO taking off that hat. He wasn't too good to fill a cooler with water and walk across the city in the heat, and to sit down with people that others in the community would have considered, beneath them or uncouth, or, these corporate titans and CEO types who would never, have walked
And
in
he
their
didn't do it for just one day. It wasn't a one day,
every
press shot kind
Thursday
of thing.
for
Right. It wasn't a
years.
one-off. It wasn't a one-off.
Nope. This was who he
And
was. This was not for show, not for PR. This is who I am. This is what I believe. And this is leadership every Thursday.
And what happened was, by doing that multiple times, people in the community started to notice. Probably the first couple of
That's
times,
right.
they're like, who's this dude just trying to
Exactly.
butter us up
The
to build this
question.
big office building, right? They're going to probably try to
Right.
buy this
We don't
building
trust
across from
you.
us and tear it down, right?
That's
And
right.
he
That's
sat there,
right.
but
The
that's
question.
so I'm going to make a left turn here.
Please.
That starts to build authenticity, because authenticity, by the way, is one of my least favorite buzzwords of the last couple of years, because you can't call yourself authentic, right? You just have to be authentic, and others have to. Your reputation as an authentic person comes from other people's thoughts about you. That's the best you could do, is live your true life. And authenticity is a tough one. I think authenticity comes with storytelling, and it comes with, not putting a marketing spin on it. And that's what this leader did. He showed up.
Yes.
He showed up. It wasn't one time. It wasn't two times. It was every week. And the community around him saw it. He built consensus. And then the elders in the community and the thought leaders within the community, the decision makers, they saw it. And then eventually got to the point of consensus. We're saying, hey, this building's going to be good. It's going to elevate the entire community. It's going to lift us all up. Right.
Exactly.
And it's going to bring in economic development, and it's bringing jobs and all that kind of good stuff. Right. That's the way you do it. Now,
that is how you do it.
What did he do that was nice, but in a way to move the needle? Did he disrupt during that process?
Did he
the process of this building right? Like during this building, there had to be pushback from the community, right? We're talking about, like, why do we need this here? Right.
Right, for sure. I think what
there's
he
a
did
business
was,
thing. We are doing this. We're building this building. Like, here's one thing. We're building this building no matter what. We don't give a shit about you. We're going to do it. We're building this building, but we want you all involved in the process.
Exactly.
Right?
We want you involved in the process. There's a place for you here. You have a voice. And that was the function of going every Thursday of, it's not one off. We actually want to hear your thoughts about what we're doing, how we can make this better, and to understand, how would this presence of ours, how would this building of ours be helpful to you all? What do you need from us to be good neighbors? Because that's what it was about, being a good neighbor. And that's why he would always say, I have skin in the game, you have skin in the game, right? We both have something to give here, and we both have something that we need. Let's find out what that is and find the common ground to be able to press forward. And I think just, that act alone was nerve, because no other CEOs would have done that. A lot of people criticized him for that. And that's why it was so, I think, important what he did at that point in time back in the early, 2000s, because people were looking at him funny, other CEOs, like, why are you talking to these people? These aren't power players. They don't have any money. They're just regular people in the community. But I don't think those people understood what it means to be a neighbor, what it means to build trust, and that within communities, there are trusted messengers, whether that's a minister, the guy on the street that everyone knows and has been there for 30 years, the corner store owner, right? Those are trusted messengers in community that can make or break a company or an organization's presence and ability to thrive within a community. And so those are voices that matter, despite hierarchy, titles, and all those other things that people find
socioeconomic status, all that kind of stuff. So I love that story. The other one I love here is you talk about from monuments to foundations, and you said leadership should not be about building kingdoms with that center ourselves, but foundations that others can stand on. I absolutely adore that. Sounds great, looks good on the book, looks good on that page, but Amira, what does that look like in practice? Let's get real.
Yeah. For me, building foundations means that a true leader, and people have heard this saying before, a true leader builds other leaders. And what does it mean to build other leaders? Is sometimes you pass the microphone, sometimes you step out of the spotlight and push someone else forward, right? In your team. That's something that I try to do. When people, talk to me, I always tell them, like, nobody works for me. Like, that's a very specific sort of framing in mind. Is that everyone, in my department, everyone on my team is a partner, and I'm a partner to them, right? I don't need the hierarchy, the titles, whatever. Nobody works for me. We work together, we collaborate. Much like Larry taught me, I have something to give, you have something to give. We both have skin in this game. Like, just because what I give is different than what you give doesn't make me any better than you in this scenario. And to me, that's part of what it means to build a foundation. I'm laying a brick, but so are you. Your brick looks different than mine, but we are both equally laying a brick that is important.
And we
to
need all the bricks.
thing that gets built. We need all of the bricks. This place doesn't get built without all of the bricks, and the person who knows, how the bricks should be balanced, the person who understands mortar, the person who, understands XYZ. Everybody has skin in this game. Yeah, it does. And leadership is recognizing that and stepping aside when and where you need to, stepping forward where you need to, and knowing that you don't have all the answers. And that's never the call for leadership. And I think too many people show up that way. If I have to have all the answers, I have to know exactly what to do at all points in time. You don't. And one of the things that I hate most is when people say things like, it's lonely at the top. I actually don't believe that. I think if it's lonely at the top, it's because you're doing it wrong. Personally,
right on.
I actually think it's because you're doing it wrong. I don't think that leadership has to be lonely.
Hey everybody, Adam here from the Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by the team at Fountain. Fountain is your full-service frontline workforce management platform. I have to tell you, Fountain's offerings are some of the most robust I've seen for any product in the space. They offer full solutions for hiring, managing, and retention. They are truly a one-stop shop focused on the frontline workforce. They also create informative content using their data. For example, they analyze a bunch of data from their fast food chains and created a trend report you could download now on their website. They also have a new ebook out called Frontline Voices. There's a lot to dive into. Certainly check it out. And you could learn more at fountain.com, linked in the show notes. Thank you. That transitions into the next part when I want to talk about shared power and accountability. And like, what are some of the way leaders could truly share that power to create structures that outlive them? When we think about succession, we think about legacy, right? Especially in organizations that are so used to this heavy top-down approach.
Yeah. It has to be that you show up in a way, and this is what the entire book is about, is rethinking what we've been handed and rethinking what we've been told. I talk about niceness as a social construct. What's a social construct? Just a made-up rule. A made-up rule, like money is a made-up rule. Like, what even is money, right? We made that up, and we all collectively agreed to it, right? Gender is a made-up, right? Race, right? These are all just collective ideas. They're not empirically or inherently or even physically true. It's just, this is what we've all decided is sort of the collective agreement of what this
is
thing
this and this is that. Yep.
Right. And so I think reimagining the world is one of the ways that we can do this as leaders and leave behind a legacy of, instead of rules, what if we moved forward with principles? What if we moved forward with, ideas about how the world works? Similar to how I grew up. Like I said, one of the things that was really important to my parents, I think the first time we talked, was teaching us that you leave people and places better than you found them. Or even what we just talked about, how I believe in building foundations, not kingdoms, right? Those are principles that shape how I move through the world, right? It's less a rule and more just a principle of how I see the world and how I make decisions, how I interact with people is based on those sort of principles. And I think reimagining principles instead of constructs is one of the most powerful things we could do as leaders to truly leave a legacy and a foundation that allows other people to be their most chosen self. I prefer that over authentic self, their most chosen self, for how they show up in any place in space.
I'm taking a second here because it really landed with me, this concept of foundations, because I truly believe that's what I do versus kingdoms, right? Like solid
Yeah.
foundation for relationships, solid foundations for personal, professional relationships. And what do you build from
Mhm.
those foundations? Right. And you start at rock bottom because there's no more solid foundation from that. And you choose how you want to build with that person. And you get to learn how
That's
they
right.
build. Are they on the same page with you? And you find common, listen, not everyone's on the same page. And you get to a certain point in building this building up together where they're going to have to converge. And are they going to match? Are they going to work? And it doesn't always have to be an exact match, but as long as those shared values are aligned, everyone's working style is going to be a little bit different. And you know how you work with certain people too. But as long as you're in that same mindset, I think that's really, what gets us there. So I want to talk a little bit about niceness protects power. And we alluded to this a little bit earlier in the conversation, but especially for women and marginalized groups, actually protect existing power and undermining progress. Like niceness is just blocking progress. How so?
Yeah. I think that niceness asks us to betray ourselves, right? Even when I talked about, the CEO who said he was sipping his own Kool-Aid, right? Niceness, part of it is about keeping things comfortable for people in power. So much of why my fellow executive team and our board of directors did not push back hard enough on that CEO who loved that quip saying. In fact, he was known in the community for saying it all the time. And people who know the origins of that
He's gonna
phrase know why
say
it's
it.
problematic.
But he was authentic
He was,
because he stuck with what he does.
he sure was. And that's why authentic self is not always the best, because
It's
he,
not always
he
your
sure
best
was
self.
authentic.
Oh, he sure
Exactly. Your
was.
best self, your chosen yourself.
Always be
But
yourself unless your best self is not
unless you
the best.
sucked.
Yeah. Unless you
Yeah.
suck. Yeah. In other words, unless you
In other
suck.
words. But niceness really, I believe, is about keeping things comfortable, right? So for this CEO who had the most power in the organization, it was uncomfortable for us to push back because he had the power to harm any one of us, right? He could have fired us. He could have reprimanded us in a way that took something from us. And I think niceness in the day-to-day of life does the same thing. And we prioritize comfort, and that only serves the people in power, because whose comfort? It's certainly not our own in most cases. We might think it is initially. And in that situation I was like, oh, it's going to be uncomfortable for me to push back on him. But really, I was protecting his comfort, because then I had the discomfort of sitting across from Congresswoman Jackie Spear and having that awkward moment, and the cost of, us losing out on opportunities because of what he did and said. And so I ended up being uncomfortable anyhow, right?
Right. It was a lose-lose.
It was a lose-lose. And so niceness is too often, it's avoiding conflict, it's staying quiet. And that's why in the book I talk about the think, feel, do, say, which is a framing from sociology and psychology that we use in communications
Think, feel,
all
do,
the
say.
time.
Think,
Think,
feel, do, say.
say.
Let's break it down, put it into practice.
Yeah. So think, feel, do, say. Before we do any communications, whether it's trying to get somebody to buy a product or use a service, we ask ourselves, well, what do you want people to think, right? Such that they will take some sort of action and do something different or new, whether that's buying something, believing something, adopting an idea, voting, or, stopping an activity even, right? Do you want them to think, oh, wow, this leader is someone that, cares about the things that I care about, right? So the think, feel, do, say is really important to mobilizing people towards action. And you can't get people to take action or change a behavior unless you understand what they're going to think when they hear or see an image or a set of words in context. So those things matter.
Amira, who's this book for?
They make you choose an audience when you write a book. I want the audience, the core audience that I wrote this book for, is certainly my fellow communicators, but that's a really big bucket. If you are a manager of people, you're a communicator. If you are a politician, you're a communicator. If
you're a parent, you're a communicator.
If you're a parent, you're a communicator. If you're a teacher, you're a communicator. So while this book isn't written to everyone, it is for everyone, because we all communicate. If you're a life partner to someone, you're a communicator. We're all communicating all the time. We're all constantly using the tools of think, feel, do, and say. Even if you might not have had the framing and the word for those things, you're definitely doing that. And my goal with this book is to give people those tools and give language to the things you're naturally already doing so that you can do them better and move through the world differently and with more insight, more power, because you are informed about how do you move people to action. Well, the think, feel, do, say of it all. And if you understand those tools, you can use them powerfully and you can use them for good, because there are certainly people in the world using them for something other than good. And I think there are more of
Yeah.
us who are
Well,
interested in good than not.
you know what's so funny about that? And I don't want to go too deep, and we're not getting political here too, but
Mhm.
there are folks that are masters of that, but for evil,
Mm, That's right.
right? They're really good. They're actually expert level practitioners, master class in
Right.
it, but the wrong message, right? And
In the
there's
wrong
lessons to learn
hand.
from them. But you could do
There
case
are.
studies on those particular people, see how they
You can.
operate, and see the effects of that, right? And break it down, and just instead of a negative message that is set to divide us, how
That's
do we turn
right.
that into a positive message to bring us together? And there's a
Yeah.
great case study in there. Let
To
me ask you this:
create good in the world.
to create good in the world, isn't that what it's all about?
Mm.
What did you learn about yourself in the process of writing this book?
I love this question.
It's one of my
What did I
favorites.
learn? So many things, because this book really is an unpacking of my life in the last 18, 20 years of figuring out how to be something other than nice. I think one of the key things that I have learned through the writing of this book is that it is truly a forever journey, right?
Mm,
I think that too often in this life, people want a quick fix or they want an antidote. And what I'm offering here really is a reimagining of how you think about the world and move through the world. And it's something that I'm still doing. There are moments where I still choose nice over nerve. And it is a constant contention every day, every decision. And I tell people all the time, sometimes I'm practicing nerve at a 1 on the dial, sometimes it's a 10 on the dial. And there are moments where you have to choose based on the rooms that you're in, the person across from you, the stakes, and the
mhm.
cost to yourself, depending
The
on
cost of
a
nice.
multitude of things. Yeah, absolutely. And so, that I'm still on this journey and that is okay. It is a constant unlearning and relearning of things over and over again, and that's okay. That's part of becoming, and becoming never ends, right? It's just part of
We're
being a
all a work in
human.
progress. We're
We're
all
all
a
a
work.
work in
Was
progress.
there, when you were writing the book, did you hit like any roadblocks, like any writer's blocks, any mental blocks? Like, were you ever at a point in the book like, I'm just not feeling this. It's not going to fly. Like, I just can't, I'm sitting with it. It's not working. And you're like, shit, I got to
Mhm.
get this moving. Publisher's calling. Did you have any of those
Right.
moments?
Oh,
Yeah.
so often, all the time. I think one of the
Second guessing
hardest things
yourself, right?
constantly, why should I write this book? Why am I equipped to? Why am I
Oh,
credible? Why would anyone
we're
hear
not
what
going
Amira
down the
thinks?
imposter syndrome. You're qualified. Let's move, keep it moving.
Thank you. I appreciate
We're
you.
not doing that. I don't
Yeah,
like imposter syndrome. I don't like,
I love it. I love it. We shouldn't do that because I'm here for a reason and I've got
we're meant
something
to
to
be,
say.
we're meant to be here.
We are. We
We're meant
are.
to be on these stages. We're meant to be here.
Yeah. Part of it was there were so many stories that I wanted to tell. And I think for me, where I ran into the writer's block was, should I tell this story? Is it too far? Is it too personal? Is it too political? Is it too outside what corporate America would accept? Right? It's all those questions. And I really, in working with my editor and those who were really close to me at this time and my early readers, being pushed to go there. I think one thing that is true of me is, in fact, a CEO said this to me one day, is you don't fit here. And he meant in the world of corporate America. He said, you don't
Mm.
fit here. So why are you here? And then he paused and he said to himself, well, actually, maybe that's exactly why you should be here, because you don't fit here.
Because you're a
And
disruptor.
for me, the entirety of the writing of this book was that tension back and forth of, I
Mm.
don't know if I should say this. Is this too far? Will people accept it? Will it get the message if I disrupt too much, if I practice too much nerve? And that is exactly why this book is needed, because I need to move beyond that and just give myself the permission to say yes. Actually, for too long, we have been inside of this box of choosing nice. And, that was constant in the writing of this book of I would take a story out, and then my early readers and my editor would be like, no, put that back. Like, we've got to go there. You got to push the envelope.
You
You
got
got
to
to
push it.
do it. You got
You
to
have
disrupt.
to. You have to. And I have so many guests on my show that share their books with me, and I'm like, there's nothing. It's information, but you're not motivating. I don't know. Motivating is not the right word. You're not inspiring me by pushing the needle in a direction that's going to affect change.
Right.
Like, you played it too safe. You played it too safe with this book.
Yep.
So that's what readers are
I'm
not going to get in this book. So
not.
I'm excited
Right.
for this book to come out. I'm excited to get this book. I have this book in my hands. I'm going to hold it up right here. This book in my hands. I want everyone to check it out. It's coming out October 28th.
Right.
Yes, October 28th is coming out. But before we wrap, let's get into your head a little bit of what's happening right now. What's keeping you up at night these days? What problems? What in the world is keeping you? I'm going there.
Keeping me up. Yeah. I have a 12-year-old daughter who's in
I have a
seventh grade.
13-year-old. I'm with you.
You get it. You got it. And what's keeping me up at night is just making sure that I show up in the world right here, right now, in the moment we find ourselves, in a way that she will look back on and be proud of, and to say, my mom, my parents, they did something. They did something when, everything felt like it was falling apart. The world was on fire. There's a lot that's happening right now that will shape the world she'll inherit once she's of adult age, right? And even of, working age, voting age. And I want to make sure that I'm doing things here, now, today, that create a world she'll be able to inherit that is, better than the one I was handed. Better than the one I was handed.
Isn't that, I say this all the time when someone asks me on podcasts about legacy, and I said, my legacy is I need to leave this world a better place than I found it, and I do that through my kids to be better than me. Like, it's really as simple as that, is to raise good humans. Like all I want to do is raise good humans. It's as simple as that. And by raising good humans, that reflects back on me, because I need to be my best self so they can be their best self. It's a symbiotic relationship.
It absolutely is.
And
we have very few
it.
rules in our house, and one of the number one rules in our house is don't be an asshole. Pardon my French.
Oh,
but
well, my son violates that every moment of every day. Yeah.
Not to raise an asshole. Like, is she putting good in the world? Is she a good troublemaker? Okay, good. That's what I want. I want her to go out there in the world and make some good trouble that helps other people thrive in the world, that helps herself thrive in the world. It really is that simple. And I think we overcomplicate a lot of things in this world, but she reminds me all the time, it really is that simple.
I love it. What's the single greatest piece of career advice you've ever received that you pay forward?
There are so many good ones. I think the way that I move through the world today is because early on, I think back to Larry, I think back to Bonnie Stahoviak and so many other mentors. The call to action was always, don't be afraid to provoke and to disrupt. And that's literally how I try to move through the world. It certainly gets me in hot water, but I think it's also inspired other people. I think it has created change. And I think it's one of the best things that all of us can do, is to reimagine the world that we have by provoking and disrupting, because leaving things as they are is certainly not the answer.
Don't settle for the status quo, because right now the status quo ain't so good.
That's right.
Yeah, keep pushing it on. And last but not least, Amira, if someone's looking at your resume, your background, your speaker bio, the about the author section on your upcoming book, by all conventional social standards, you have reached a level of success. But Amira Barger, how do you define success right now on this day?
Right here, right now on this day, I want people to really wake up and say, it's not enough to be nice. You have to have some nerve. And Amira, she always had some nerve to say the thing, to do the thing that ruffled the feathers, that made people go, huh, that made people question. That's really what it's about. That's success to me.
I love it. And thank you for your time, your energy, your friendship that we're developing here. I appreciate you. I want everyone to check out The Price of Nice, dropping October 28th. And you can check out amirabarger.com. We will link it up for the book tour dates, and more. We're going to connect you on LinkedIn. We're going to connect you on Instagram. Her TikTok is fun. I like your TikTok.
Thank you.
Yourself.
Thank you. Me too.
You're yourself.
You.
You're getting good at it. I
Thank
suck
you.
at it, and I just phone it in. I don't even try. I stick to Instagram and LinkedIn. That's my world there. Anywhere else folks can connect with you? Smoke signals, bat signals.
I love it. Know that I'm on all the socials: Blue Sky, Instagram, newly to TikTok. Yeah, for sure. That's where they can find me at amirabarger.com.
Amira Barger, thank you so much for joining me and my audience today. We appreciate you. And folks listening, if this show meant something to you, leave a review rating. It goes a long way. You know where to find out more at thepodcast.com. Follow us on all social media channels. Remember, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search The Poscast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.